Hi everyone, Mike here with another Heroes and Bosses video, this time painting my first of many Zombicide Invader miniatures. These two are Andrei and Kyle from the Black Ops expansion. After priming them in grey, I'm starting off with Barak-Nur Burgundy to paint the insides of the cloaks they're wearing. Once that's dried, I'm switching to a watered down Screamer Pink, and I'm doing a subtle highlight to any part of the cloak that looks like light could be hitting it, mostly where the fabric is folded over itself. Next I'm going to paint the other side of the cloaks using German Grey. The colors I'm picking are mostly based on the character art for each character, though I am moving the colors around to places that I personally prefer better. These guys are already looking pretty stylish. Next I'm going to paint the skin. Each character is getting a different color. Kyle is going to get the darker skin tone, Khardic flesh. The only thing exposed on Kyle is his face and his shoulder. Andrei, on the other hand, is getting a light skin tone. This one is Midlund flesh. Next I'm going to paint all of the armor. I'm using German Grey once again and mixing it with equal amounts of gunmetal. You can also just use black for this if you want. This color is going to go over all the armor plates on the body except for the backpacks. I'm also using this color in two other places. One is all the barrels of the minigun for Kyle, and on the clip of the submachine gun for Andrei. Now I'm switching to a light brown Steel Legion Drab to paint in between all the armor plates and on the boots. I'm also using this on Andrei's mask and gloves. Kyle has a circular bump on his shoulder, which I believe is supposed to be a cybernetic implant. I missed it before, but I'm painting that now with the dark metal color. When painting the boots, I wanted the soles of the boots to stand out a bit more, so I took more of the German Grey and mixed that into the Steel Legion Drab. Next I'm painting all of the armor plating on the minigun and the backpacks using heavy grey from Vallejo. I'm not sure why it's called that. This is a military green, similar to Deathworld Forest. I'm deliberately leaving a few spots bare on these backpacks. I want to paint the rest of it a different color. Andrei has a little strip running down the center of his armor, and I'm using the green here as well. Next I'm using pure gunmetal from Army Painter to paint the rest of the minigun and the rest of the backpacks. Andrei also has a bunch of buckles running down the center of his cloak in the front, and I'm painting these with the gunmetal as well. Now I'm switching to a bright silver color. This one is Shining Silver from Army Painter, and I'm going to use this to paint all of the bolts in the armor. I'm also going to use this silver as an accent color for all the bits of extra bling Andrei has on. There's a buckle in the back and a pendant on the right side of his armor that loops around. For Kyle, I'm also painting all of the bolts in the armor, as well as highlighting the center of his implant. Next I'm switching to bright bronze from Vallejo. There's a bunch of skulls on the armor, cloaks, and the backpacks, and I'm painting all of these with the bright bronze. I'm also using it to paint the canisters attached to the minigun, as well as some of the tubing. Andrei has a lot of skulls on his body, 4 in the front and 1 in the back. I'm using some of the shining silver I still have on my palette to paint the center buckles for Andrei. Next I'm mixing up a new metallic color. This is a 2-to-1 mix of Blighted Gold from P3 and Shining Silver from Army Painter. If you don't have Blighted Gold, you can just use any gold or bronze color to get something similar. I just want to create a brass looking color to paint what's left on the weapons. First I'm using this on the ammo belt for Kyle's minigun, as well as all the remaining tubing and wires attached to the weapon and the backpack. With Andrei, I'm painting the tubes on the backpack, the body of his submachine gun, and his breath mask. I'm also going to paint some of this brass color into the vents in Andrei's breastplate. And just to finish off the submachine gun, I'm going back to the German grey and painting the barrel, the grip, and the scope. Now for the last of the base colors, the hair. For Andrei, I'm going with a dark brown. Kyle, on the other hand, is going to go with something a little more punk, bright red. This one is Mephiston red. That's the end of the base colors and nearly the end of level 1. Next up are the washes. These are the 4 that I ended up using. I'm starting with a Nuln oil gloss, and this is going over everything painted with a metallic color, so all of the armor and most of the weapons. Once that's on, I'm using a 1-to-1 mix of Athonian Camoshade and Nuln oil for everything that's painted green or brown, so the backpacks and the areas in between the armor plates. And the final wash is Reikland Fleshshade over all the areas of the skin, and you might as well put this over the hair as well. And that's the end of level 1. All you need to do is paint your bases and spray your miniatures with a matte varnish. If you want to add a little extra detail, proceed to level 2. Next I'm going to add a few highlights. The first highlight will be to the military green areas using Ogryn Camo. For Kyle, you can get away with just dry brushing. I'm using a small flat brush for this. I've wiped off most of the paint and I'm gently brushing perpendicular to all the edges of the backpack and the armor on the minigun. For Andrei, I've thinned the Ogryn Camo down, and I'm using a small brush to add it to the stripe down the front of his armor and to the top of the backpack. Next I'm highlighting the hair. For Andrei, I'm using Mournfang brown, and I'm painting the top 2/3 of the hair. I'm moving my brush in the same direction that the strands of the hair are going. Then I'm doing the same thing with Kyle, but I'm using Wild Rider Red instead. Next I'm doing the toughest part, the eyes. I'm going to start off by painting the entire eye with German Grey. Once that's dried, I'm switching to Ivory and I'm coloring in the entire eye except for a thin dark ring around each white. Once I'm happy with that, I'll paint in an iris with more of the German Grey. So, confession time, I totally thought that Andrei was a woman, right up until I posted the pictures on Discord. So if you're wondering why Andrei looks like he has a ton of mascara and no stubble, that's why. And you can also see here that I used more of the Mournfang brown to give Andrei some eyebrows. Now I'm going back to the original skin tone, Midlund Flesh. I'm going to touch up the eyebrows and give a little highlight to the top of the head and his cheeks. Now it's Kyle's turn. You can see I did the eyes in the same style, but with a little less mascara. And now I'm going to highlight the skin. I'm using the original skin tone, but this time I mixed in a little bit of white because the highlights just didn't seem prominent enough on him. I'm doing the face highlights the same way I did with Andrei, but I'm adding some to the nose and the chin as well. For the shoulder, I'm just highlighting the top of each muscle. Now I'm going to add some stubble to the head and face using Drakenhof Nightshade. I'm mixing it 1-to-1 with Lamian Medium, and I'm thinly glazing it over the areas that I want to look like there's shaved hair. I'm giving Kyle a receded hairline and some 5 o'clock shadow. The key here is to take your time and put on multiple layers, letting each one dry in between. And finally, I'm using some dark brown to give Kyle some eyebrows. The final thing I'm going to do is a subtle highlight on the cloak. I'm first putting down 3 shades of grey, some pure German grey, a 2-to-1 mix of Mechanicus Standard Grey and German grey, and finally some pure Mechanicus Standard Grey. Then I'm adding 1 drop of an 8-to-1 mix of water and Fleshshade, though using pure water is totally fine here. Now if you don't like doing a lot of wet blending, I suggest you paint the outside of the cloaks with the German Grey and Mechanicus mix, and then just use Nuln oil over the entire thing. That should get you some decent shadows in the recesses. So the first thing I'm doing here is painting all of the raised areas with the Mechanicus German mix. This is the first layer of highlight. Now while that's still wet, I'm getting some of the pure Mechanicus and putting a smaller area of this on top of the raised areas. Then I'm just wet blending these colors together. If I accidentally make a highlight too big or it just doesn't look right, I'm immediately touching it up with the German Grey. Then just keep repeating this, adding more layers of the Mechanicus Grey until you're happy with how bright the highlight is. With Kyle, where there's pretty much no folds in his cloak, I'm painting the bottom half with the Mechanicus German mix, and then I'm painting the bottom 25% with a pure Mechanicus Standard Grey. As I go, I'm wet blending the edges where the different greys meet to get a smooth transition. And the final step is just to paint the base. I wanted to do a custom base, but the materials I needed haven't arrived in the mail yet, so that'll have to be a separate video, I'm afraid. So for now, I'm just painting the base with Mechanicus Standard Grey and the rim of the base with German Grey. Once everything is dry, spray the miniatures with a matte varnish. And there you have it, Kyle and Andrei are ready to lay waste to some Xenos. Thank you very much to all my patrons for supporting me on Patreon, and a special thanks to Brian Jones for sponsoring the channel. If you want to see more Invader videos, don't forget to click the bell. I hope you enjoyed this video, and thanks for watching.